Jason, thanks for coming on today.
Great to be here with you.
So, TikTok, one of the most popular social media platforms. Why do you say it's a threat to the American people?
Well, it's in an evil genius kind of way. This could have more of an undermining impact on America's sovereignty and America's independence, especially in the battle against the CCP in decades going forward. And what I mean by this evil genius is right now the TikTok algorithm is so good, it is so highly developed, they literally know what you want before you know it. They know what images to feed you, they know what you're going to react to. They know what ads to go and send to you. They know it's gotten so specific. So say you have someone, I know their terms of service say you need to be 13, but kids get on it much younger than 13 when all of their friends are on it. And they start building that psychographic profile of everything about you. Imagine, go back in a time machine to everything that you first started thinking about, images and attitudes and opinions from the age of, say, 10 until now as an adult. Not just say you get older to voting age, they're going to know everything about you, but then going forward as you enter the workforce, when you get out of college, and then even going, say, maybe 20, 30 years down the road, you run for office, they will have decades of psychographic analysis into your user profile. And again, if this was, say, something maybe there's your Amazon account, people can see here's what you've been buying, here's what there might be a product affinity for. That's one thing, but since we know the CCP has access to American user data, then literally the CCP is going to know everything about American TikTok users for the entirety of their lives.
Now, you mentioned the CCP, and we know TikTok is owned by ByteDance. What is the relationship between ByteDance and the Chinese Communist Party?
Great question. So a lot of people might not realize that in order to do business in China, in mainland China, and especially if you're a large company such as ByteDance, you have to submit to the CCP's surveillance laws. So a lot of times when we talk about doing business, or the proverbial doing business in China, say a Ford Motor Company, what they do is they force you to do a joint venture with a local company. They work with the Western company for a few years, and then they basically kick out the Western company and just the CCP steals the technology. But literally, to even open up your business and have any operations in mainland China, you have to submit to the CCP's surveillance tactics. And so if there are ByteDance employees who are monitoring data and such matters from Americans in China, then you know that the CCP is. I've told people before, and to be clear, when we say data, this isn't about your email name or your credit card number. Assume they already have that. What this is about is far more dastardly, when they will know, say for example, what your attitude might be on Taiwan, what images you might react to with regard to Ukraine, your thoughts on American candidates and issues in America. That's why I'm so concerned that TikTok could undermine the very essence of American sovereignty.
So are you saying the core concern here is that ByteDance is a Chinese company?
Well, absolutely. And again, when we say Chinese company, I want to make sure that people understand what I'm saying here. I'd be making this, there'd be similar concerns even if it was, say, a Western country. But again, other countries, particularly Western countries, have surveillance restrictions and surveillance laws to make it so that governments cannot come and snoop. But to be able to do business in mainland China, you have to submit to the CCP surveillance laws. So if your data is being accessed, your data, being an American citizen, is being accessed by TikTok, by ByteDance in mainland China, that means the CCP is seeing it also.
So we know Google, Amazon, these companies are doing something similar. I guess the core difference is the government doesn't know the data.
Well, and also keep in mind that what's not clear is, say, for example, the way that Google or other companies have it compartmentalized. And so that, say, a headquarters of which for, say, a Google, or say for Apple or things like that. I'd be very hard pressed to think that Google or Apple would allow American user info to then somehow be obtained or corrupted inside mainland China. But when you have ByteDance, which is the parent company to TikTok, That's where the American data has been proven to be reviewed in mainland China. That's where the concern of the CCP would see it and have access to it.
And you mentioned that TikTok might know your stance on Taiwan. How would TikTok get this information?
So this is the thing with these algorithms that are getting so specific. It's based off of hundreds and thousands of swiping up or liking or deciding where you want to purchase things. So they can keep in mind, this isn't about just seeing a particular post on TikTok and saying, here's imagery, do you like Taiwan or do you not like Taiwan? That's not the point. The point is, what are opinions being formed about, say, freedom fighters, opinions being formed about freedom of speech, opinions being formed about standing up or disagreeing with the CCP. Have you liked something or watched a video about, say, the plight of the Uyghurs or people in Tibet or students in Hong Kong? These are all things that can then be used by the CCP to determine how an American would then view, say, their aggression towards Taiwan.
Now, give me a practical example. If the CCP has these kind of information on you, what can they do with it?
Great question, because start thinking about, as we approach American elections, then how do they want to manipulate the algorithm as far as what images certain people in certain groups actually see, or say that say for example, China is out testing the supersonic missiles, and they want to suppress some of those videos or discussions on that as it pertains to certain audiences. Or, say, for example, maybe there's a policy matter that the CCP wants to see enacted in the United States. Maybe it's to be supportive of a candidate who they view as being weaker when it comes to standing up to the CCP. So my very real concern is, say, for example, even going back to 2020, I've never actually discussed this before, but as I've learned more about TikTok in recent months and recent years, my concern would be, we knew President Trump was standing up and being tough on China and the CCP. We knew Joe Biden very much has issues with his family's business dealings in China. There was the whole Hunter Biden laptop. I would like to know if ByteDance and TikTok, if any algorithms were manipulated in advance of the 2020 election based off of their knowing that Joe Biden would be weaker when it came to standing up to the CCP as opposed to President Trump. I'm sure if we asked them, the answer would be no, of course not. We don't do that. I'm not sure I'd necessarily believe that.
Now, let me just get this question out of the way. I know you're the CEO of Getter. Do you see Getter as a TikTok rival? Does that bias your views towards TikTok?
Very fair question. I would like to be a rival of TikTok. We're not quite there yet. I'm sure TikTok's not exactly losing sleep. I mean, we only have 6.5 million users all over the world. We are the fastest growing social media platform in history, though. Someday, I would like to be a rival of them. In fact, that's why we introduced Vision, our short video competitor, to TikTok. But hopefully we'll be there. But even if I wasn't a part, say, for example, of doing anything with Getter, I have pretty outspoken stances on the CCP going back to my time working for President Trump on both campaigns, as well as being one of the initial co-hosts of Steve Bannon's War Room. And Steve Bannon obviously is very aggressive in standing up to the CCP. So my track record on the CCP is pretty clear. And let's just say I don't think they'd welcome me with open arms if I tried to go visit.
All right, fair enough. And I'm sure you know about civil-military fusion. With the data that the CCP is getting from TikTok, would that have any applications in the military space, for example, AI?
Another good question, because keep in mind that it's not just ByteDance and TikTok. Think about Hikvision, for example, what they're doing with facial recognition. There is, I would not run it past the CCP to be fully integrating all of the data that they're capturing. Like I said, you have Hikvision, you have TikTok, you have the joint ventures, and everything from aerospace to manufacturing, to even some things that venture into military. Microchips, everything that they're doing, because the CCP, they're smart. They're very smart and they're very evil, and they're thinking ahead, saying, no, we're not going to we're not going to defeat the West in some military conflict. We're going to defeat them before they even know that we have a real conflict, whether it be by taking their data, being able to manipulate American elections and the elections of other countries. I mean, heck, I largely see things through a myopic American perspective because I'm an American who thinks about America first. But think about countries that maybe don't have the electronic or data safeguards to where a CCP could come in and use TikTok to help manipulate elections or local opinions. Take, for example, the debt diplomacy, where TikTok could easily come in and start manipulating, saying, oh, isn't this investment great? Whether it be in Sri Lanka, maybe it be in other places in Central and South America where the CCP is trying to expand, they can easily go in and manipulate what images people are seeing and what their attitudes towards such things are. So again, it might not even be some kinetic type conflict, it might just be attitudes even towards debt diplomacy.
You recently told the Epoch Times that they could be building a psychographic analysis of an entire generation. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
It's scary. It's very scary. And I take, for example, my oldest daughter just turned 14. And we had to take TikTok away from her. But the very fact that they already, probably had a year or two of knowledge about what kind of videos she might like and what kind of things she'd hit like on or share with her friends or those types of things. But then imagine as she goes to high school, going into college, then going into early adulthood, things as far as what political commentary, what different things, how she would react, for example, to different images. This is something that I react favorably to or negatively to. And then say, for example, everyone in America thinks that their child is going to grow up and be president one day. It's one of the great things about America. Say my daughter were to decide to run for office in 20 years or in 30 years. Then she could be, for example, a member of Congress if she was on TikTok during that time, where they would already know their opinions on everything. And keep in mind, when we talk about a psychographic analysis, that's typically used where they develop a behavioral composite specific to, say, brand acquisition and consumer research data. And so that might be, for example, who's going to want to buy Harry's razors? Who's going to want to buy Gillette shaving cream? Who's going to want to buy Tide dish soap? That's how we typically think about it. It's not just that, though, but also when you start factoring in the politics, public policy, attitudes towards the CCP and the different shenanigans that they're up to all around the world, that's where it gets scary.
Hearing TikTok says under no circumstances will it give data to China and deny that TikTok is anyway influenced by China. What would you say to that?
Yeah, this is a family program, so I won't use the whole word, but I just say BS. Because again, what they didn't say is ByteDance, the parent company, has to comply with all CCP surveillance laws if they're doing business in the country. And again, they're a Chinese founded and based company. Of course, anything the CCP wants, they're going to get. I'm throwing the challenge flag on that. I'm saying it's BS, and I'm saying that we have to assume that any company that is based in mainland China, because of the surveillance laws that are in place, have open books and open doors when it comes to anything the CCP wants.
Does the CCP see TikTok as an American company?
No, of course not. They see it as one of their many tools and tickets towards global dominance. It's ByteDance. Of course, they view it as a Chinese company. They want it to spread and expand because here's the thing with TikTok. It's free. It's one thing to go and try to sell, say, Chinese products, for example, if you're trying to sell a certain car or different manufactured type products in the United States. That's one conversation. But when you're giving away something for free, such as social media, such as TikTok, that's genius because then they can go and manipulate and tap into all of that. It's quite scary what the potential could be here.
So then it doesn't matter if all the data is stored in the U.S.
So as we've seen before with whether it be other companies and what data is able to be viewed and seen overseas, I do not have any confidence that when TikTok says data is, say, kept in the United States, I mean, just based on recordings and things we've seen from TikTok and others about what is able to be seen in mainland China. And again, if something's being viewed by employees in mainland China, then that means the CCP is viewing it because, again, they monitor and tap all conversations. They have access to any of the digital trail that goes through.
Right, and BuzzFeed came out with an article recently that in recordings actually mentioned master admin, and this person can see all the data no matter where it is.
Exactly. And so imagine the master admin based in China, and again, the surveillance laws that are in place. And I don't think people quite get that, whereas in the United States, we have certain policies to prevent the government from spying. It literally is the law in China that to be able to operate a business there, you have to comply with the CCP surveillance statutes. That means that whatever master admin sees, the CCP is seeing. It's scary. It's very scary.
Do you feel governments and intelligence agencies are underestimating the risk here?
Absolutely. And just because you have intelligence in your title doesn't mean that you're actually smart. just to be clear on this. I think that the traditional agencies are looking much more, they're thinking too conventionally. So they're thinking of, say, Huawei, for example. What is the risk of using Huawei telecommunications equipment? A little bit more kind of a two-dimensional approach. Okay, this is tech equipment, or they think maybe here certain microchips are where things are manufactured. What they're not thinking through is the intellectual firepower, the intellectual data that you can go and collect, the psychographic type data. They're not thinking through that. They're also not thinking 10, 20, 30 years down the road. They're thinking, how could the CCP spy on us right now? That's a problem as well, but they're, in my opinion, blind to how this plays out. And keep in mind, and I think a lot of my friends in the West don't quite get this, China's been around for thousands of years. America's been around for a little over 200, 250 years or so. And so this is very much a long game when it comes to the CCP. Their viewpoint is that China's been around thousands of years. It'll be around for thousands of more years. So it takes a longer time to go and get our clutches in or to get this data. It's all part of the long-term plan.
So then let me ask you, where do you stand on this? Should TikTok be banned in the US?
Absolutely. I think TikTok, as long as it's controlled by a Chinese company in mainland China that's subject to CCP surveillance laws, absolutely should be banned. Now, again, like I said, technically they're a marketplace competitor. At some point, it'd be great if we were true competitors. They're a little bit bigger than Getter is. Now, if they were to be sold to a company in the United States and there was real clarity that information was staying within the United States, then I probably would have a different position when it comes to it being banned. But so long as it's owned by ByteDance, which is based in China and subject to the CCP surveillance laws, I think it's a national security risk.
All right. Thank you very much, Jason Miller. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.